Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Your Mark on the World show. I'm your host, Devin Thorpe, and our guest today is Melody Brenna. She's the CEO and founder of Reef Life Restoration. Melody, welcome to the show.
Hello, Devin.
So you're joining us from the aquarium, right?
Yes, the Living Planet Aquarium in Salt Lake City, Utah.
Wow, it's I've never had a shark on the show before. This is a first.
I know, and there's all kinds of sea creatures back here.
Yes, so I didn't mean to suggest you were the shark.
Okay, all righty.
So, Melody, tell us about Reef Life Restoration.
Okay, 8 years ago, we had a company in Amarillo, Texas called Milestone Architectural, and we cast architectural wonders, arches and columns, and shipped them all over the world. And at that time, nobody knew much about reefs or how things worked underneath the water. And we got a call from Florida, some reef people, and they said, why in the world aren't you paying attention to casting elements of water? And we thought, wow, what an interesting thought process, because the matrix of how the water works is very, so you can't just toss any old thing in the water, but the coral reefs need a structure when they spawn to land on. So we started 8 years ago coming up with the science for this.
So you're using nanotechnology combined with your casting technology to create new reef structures that grow and become living coral, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Why are reefs endangered? Why are they in trouble? And how much of them are in trouble?
There's a lot, and it's man-made, really. The biggest one is called bleaching. The water gets too warm and it becomes acidified, and it actually bleaches the reefs out. And part of our structures have a different type of pH, and they can actually affect the pH of a region around a reef. Some of it is overfishing. Some of it is tourism. People anchor their boats on a reef. There are fishermen who bomb reefs to get the fish, and that is a difficult situation as well. And because there's overfishing, the bigger fish who are supposed to eat the smaller fish aren't in there, and so the balance, that delicate balance underneath the ocean, is thrown off.
So how does your technology address all of these different problems?
It won't address all of them. We can't fix global warming. What we can do is put an artificial reef, an engineered reef structure next to a natural reef, and that can start to grow when that reef spawns. There are some marvelous TED Talks on this if somebody's interested. 75% of the coral reefs are dead and dying right now, so the time is imminent. But when corals spawn, which, believe it or not, is once a year, they're spawning together. And so these tiny eggs, which are the size of a poppy seed, are floating through the ocean, and they're looking for a substrate to land on. And this substrate that we have has these little tiny cells in it, what we call a marine cell matrix. And it can hold that egg and give it a baby bed, if you will, so that it's protected from the predators that would come eat it before it got a chance to grow.
So which of the problems that you enumerated for us does your technology help to address?
Well, we're not going to ever cure global warming with a new reef. All of us in the universe are going to have to figure this out. What pollution are we not going to put in the water? However, one of the walls that we have is called a toxic absorption fence, and all of these are on our Reef Life website, so people can look it up and see. But let's say there was a mercury spill off the coast of an island, and they wanted to pull that spill up. Well, in order to get it up from the spill, those tiny mercury droplets are going to wash towards the shore. If they had an absorption fence between the spill and the shore, that fence is going to hold those mercury particles so it doesn't reach the shore and it doesn't affect the kids' teeth on that shore. And this is going to be powerful, and they can resell it. They can pull this fence up and squish the mercury out and sell that as well. So it can absorb toxins. However, it's mostly to surround a reef that's in trouble, to hope that it can hold new growth and get some oxygen in there.
Let's talk about the pH, because it seems to me that's one of the critical factors. The acidity of the ocean seems to be correlated with the rising temperature, right?
Yes.
So if you are putting in a pH adjusted nanotechnology into your material,
Yes.
then you are compensating for that climate change impact, aren't you?
Yes. And in fact, there is a cool one on the web. You can see it, and it has spikes like this. Let's say you had a reef outside of Bermuda that was struggling, but it looked like it could hang on. Outside of that reef could be a fence with what we call an acidification balance. So as the water came over, it would actually pull through our substrate and bathe that reef with the proper pH, so that it would pull that pH up to a normal level and hopefully get those babies to accumulate the right pH so they don't continue to bleach.
So it's not a cure for global warming, but it does compensate for the impact of global warming.
Yes, sir.
That's great. That's great. Now, one of the things that you can do is to take your old technology, right, for building beautiful structures and put them underwater with your reef technology as well, to create growing, living museums underwater, right?
Yes. In fact, there was something incredible on the web last night of somebody saying, imagine having a dive with the pharaohs. Somebody building old Egypt underwater. Because we can cast architecturally, that we can do a dive reef that's closer to a resort, because part of the wonder of reefs is tourism. And so many of these smaller communities need the tourism to come, because that's part of Fiji, Australia. The tourism is a mandate. So if we can build a beautiful dive reef next to a resort that's not going to hurt the natural reef, then people can come enjoy themselves on that dive reef. And that's part of the wonder of being able to cast something.
Wow, that's tremendous. That's really exciting to think about. Now, Melody, you are really becoming a role model to a lot of people. You've been active in Rotary and doing things around the world in terms of all kinds of service that you've helped to fund and create. But who do you look up to as a role model?
My first role model as an entrepreneur and as a human being was my dad, who was a Rotarian, and so was his father. And he said, you have a choice every day. You can get up with a smile on your face and you can make everybody you meet feel incredible, or you can whine around and slough around and pull everybody down with you. And he said it's that active choice that can help your whole environment. And I watched him as an entrepreneur create an entirely new industry and bring it all over the world, and what it took to do that, and then come home on the weekends and catch the horses and throw the kids on and be a great dad, and as well as being a community leader in the children's home and Rotarian issues all over the world. And so it was really someone to emulate.
So what's your connection to the concern about the welfare of the reefs? I get that you have the ability, but why do you care about these things, to devote so much of your time and attention to this now?
It's an interesting thought, and somebody asked me that the other day, and I'm going to hark back to my dad a little bit. And the reason we care about this is fifth graders. And he had this marvelous saying, and he said, the fifth graders are taking over the world. And I had no idea, what in the world is he talking about? And now that I'm a mom, I get it. If a fifth grader in the Philippines or off the Khalifi coast of Africa or in San Antonio or wherever this is, has a good meal, a healthy meal, and a good sleep, and they can rock their math test tomorrow, that's why we're doing it.
No, well, that's
That
great.
Grader has his fifth grader in the same way. These brilliant fifth graders are going to solve whatever problems come their way.
That's terrific. Now, Melody, you've been a very effective change agent. We ask all of our guests for what we call an impact hack, some tip that would allow us to do more good. What tip would you give us?
Well, doing more good has levels. When I get up in the morning and I'm a member of this 5 o'clock a.m. club, I do my kickboxing or my run or whatever, and then as soon as I get back, I tackle the toughest project of the day while I'm fresh and can really put everything into it. And that helps me start the day and get it rolling and have it in a positive way when I'm awake. And that works for me.
Oh, that's great. That's a great tip. Well, we thank you very much for being on the show today. Melody, before you go, tell us how people can learn more about reef life restoration and connect with you.
Our website is great. It's reefliferestoration.com. And there's buttons to find engineers, there's buttons to find artists, there's buttons to find scientists, so they can get on there and click a button and go straight to a scientist and say, here's my problem, help me solve it.
Fantastic. Well, again, Melody, we appreciate you taking the time to be with us today, and we wish you every success in restoring the world's reefs.
Thank you, Devin.
All right.
Thank you so much.
It's a pleasure. Let's do some good.
Good.